Well, we're back again. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 20th PvP Live podcast. I'm your host, Jason McCaw, along with PvP Live staff members Eldakar, Aridin, and JD. How are you guys doing?
Who's going first?
Doing good.
Aridin, how are you, buddy?
Pretty good, man. I can't believe it's Sunday already, and we're doing another podcast. This week just completely flew by.
I agree. Yeah, it's we've got some crazy stuff going on here at the PvP Live studios that I'll talk about here in a minute. Davis, you've been gone for a little bit. We're so excited to have you back. How have you been?
I haven't been too well. That's why I've been away. But I got some stuff cut out of my body, and now I'm better. I should be all good from here. So I'm just looking forward to playing the new season and seeing Armageddon.
I think we all are. And I gotta tell you right off the bat, our CEO, Casey Weir, stole my pen, and I feel so weird without twirling it around during this, but I'm just going to have to make do. Eldakar, how have you been?
I'm doing great. I'm a little tired after this long weekend working on Armageddon, but I think it's all going to pay off next weekend. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff going on this week. Eldakar's been working, we all have. I don't even want to just say Jeff. But Eldakar's been helping set up all our computers for Armageddon, which we'll be talking about here very shortly. And it's been some long days, but it's going to be well worth it for next weekend. I do want to bring up, first off, we had a very special guest visit the PvP Live studios today. Senior Manager of Esports, Kim Fan, stopped by the studios, checked out our set, checked out our equipment, just a meet and greet, basically. We were so happy that she stopped by. And I just want to thank Blizzard and Kim Fan for sending her down here. That was quite a treat to have her in the studio. It was pretty neat. But jumping right in, first I want to talk about Armageddon. Coming up next weekend. I can't believe this, because guys, we've been planning this for, for quite a while, but really the past 2 months we've been planning this. For you guys that don't know, we opened up PvP Live offices in Dallas, Texas. I am actually there right now. Unfortunately, we were going to broadcast it from the new set that we just had built, but we wanted to make sure everything was of the highest quality. So, we wanted to get everything tuned right, and I'm going to blame everything on Eldakar for the server setup. But no, it's everything is going so well. We're so excited. If you guys don't know, Armageddon. PvP Live is sponsoring a 3v3 Arena Invitational online tournament March 15th and 16th. And of course, we'll be having a 4-team playoff on Friday, March 14th for that final AC. That is next weekend, or this coming weekend now, I guess. On Friday, we're going to have some very special guests. Swifty stopping by. Chinglish is actually going to be in studio as well as Swifty. They're flying in for this. And of course, this is all for a $10,000 prize pool. We're having Vihale and Azael commentate, and I will be hosting, and everyone is going to be in one studio set. It is going to be the highest quality World of Warcraft tournament you guys are going to have seen since BlizzCon. I can promise you that. Talking about Armageddon.
What a mouthful there, Jason.
I know. Oh my God. I feel like I'm talking for a million years. I'm sorry. It's more than I usually
No,
talk.
I mean, that's a lot of information.
It is a lot of information. Had to get it out. Aridin, going to you. On the topic of Armageddon, what are you most excited about? What have you been working on to get us all prepared here?
So my main role with this tournament has been talent coordinator is the title that I've been given, and basically I'm talking to all the teams, their captains, basically getting all kinds of paperwork and information and stuff handed out back and forth. I'm basically the middleman between them and PvP Live. So obviously I've had my hands full with that. We got a lot of players coming into this tournament, and I'm really most excited just to finally get into it. I mean, it's been like this just such a hype everywhere about it, and to finally be able to just get in there and see these guys play is going to be, that's it. That's what we're waiting for, right? So can't wait for it.
Davis, we haven't really had you on the podcast since we've done this major announcement. Over in the UK or in Scotland, what are you most excited about for Armageddon this weekend?
Well, I was there for the announcement. And
you were. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you just completely forgot about my existence.
Oh my gosh, I'm horrible.
Apart from that, yeah. I don't know. I'm really excited about all of it. I'm just really excited to see how this tournament will play out and how it will lead on to the rest of the stuff that could happen with, World of Warcraft PvP. If this goes well, then it can only mean good things. And clearly, Blizzard are much more interested in the PvP aspect of the community. So I'm just really excited in general.
Jeff, Eldakar, like I said earlier, you've been helping us set up the servers, the gaming PCs that Vihil and Azael are going to be controlling the games through. Obviously you've been working all week on this with us. What are you most excited about? Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing?
Well, for Armageddon, I have designed all of the IT components and all of the engineering components of the studio. So how everything's wired up, what equipment we've been purchasing, and how it all goes together. And it's been a long road getting here, but I am really excited just to see it all come together and to see a high quality tournament come out of all the work that's gone into this, and to see really good quality delivered to all the fans and all the viewers.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
Like JD said, I'm really excited to see what kind of follow-up that comes out of this tournament. What's it going to mean for WoW esports down the road? Mm-hmm. How is it going to affect players, and not just pro players, but regular players? And how is Blizzard going to respond? They've already started showing more and more support for esports and for WoW PvP in general. I'm just really excited to see this continue to evolve.
Yeah, it's like I said, I don't want to harp on this a lot, but this is going to be a very high production value. We're not going to be sitting at a folding table. We actually hired set designers, set builders. We have a full set in our studio right now, which is right across the hall from me, and we are super excited to get started.
I like to think of this kind of as like setting the bar. Obviously, we're trying to do the best job we can, and we want to make this the best production anyone's ever seen. But I'd also like to see, kind of going off what Jeff just said, what else comes out of this. Like who's going to be the next big tournament to come out and really do it well. And yeah, I think it's really an exciting time.
Yep, absolutely. Again, Armageddon next weekend, March 14th, 15th, and 16th. You can tune in right here at twitch.tv/PvP Live. Before we get into the first topic of the night, I want to remind everyone, go to pvp-live.com, bookmark that site, follow us all on Twitter right below us here, and make sure to hit that follow button right there on Twitch. First topic of the night, Developer Watercooler, a very long, in-depth post on the official World of Warcraft site. They a post about health pools removing many instant heals and requiring smarter usage of spells. Basically, I'm going to jump right down to Eldakar. Why don't you go in a little more in depth about what this water cooler chat was all about, this post?
Okay, well, the first part of this water cooler is really about how they're going to have to rebalance health in order to minimize the amount of baseline resilience and battle fatigue that players have. And this is reducing resilience and battle fatigue is something they've been talking about for a while, but they haven't really gotten into how that's going to affect other things and how they were going to do it until this water cooler. And it was kind of expected that they would have to raise player health, because you couldn't keep everything constant and just reduce resilience and battle fatigue. Otherwise, everybody just explode. Mm-hmm. So it's good to see them making these kinds of changes, all as part of one big picture that's going to be Warlords of Draenor PvP. And everything is interconnected. Reducing resilience, increasing player health, reducing burst damage, reducing healing. It all fits together into a new picture, and it moves towards that goal that they've been trying to get to for a long time, and they reiterated recently, of having PvP combat be more between 0 and 100 in terms of where your health is sitting at, rather than just being bursted down from 100 and it's all about healer reaction time. They want healers to have to make interesting decisions. Who should I heal? What heal should I use? Do I have enough mana? Not just where am I positioned and hit the heals on the target that's being focused as fast as possible. And I feel like if they can pull this off, because I've been trying to do it for a long time, this is going to be far and away the best PvP experience we've ever had in World of Warcraft.
Aridin, going over to you. Why don't you talk a little bit about the health pools and removing instant heals and the whole lot.
Well, like Eldakar said, a lot of it works together. Like all these pieces are kind of like cogs in this big machine. So last week we had the article about reducing the amount of CC. Well, if you were to look at it in terms of the game right now, if you drastically reduce CC, nothing would die because heals are too strong. And you need that CC to land kills. So it's kind of all going together, and I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. I'm not really one that can kind of read this text and understand how it's going to play. I'm really hands-on with it. So, once the beta comes out or we get a chance to play it, I think I'll have a much better idea then. One of my biggest concerns with it, though, is they talked a lot about reducing the amount of instant heals and put cast times on a lot of them. What kind of, I guess, scares me with that is that it may alienate some healers, which, as many of us know, healers are probably one of the hardest things to find for PvP at the moment. So I'm hoping it works out well and it feels good and it feels rewarding so that people will want to play that healer role still, and it's not too challenging, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you take it in at the top level. I'm sure that the really high rated healers are going to continue to heal and they're going to continue to do well. But when you get down to like the lower rated players, maybe it is too difficult for them. Who knows? I don't know. I'm really hoping it works out well.
Like we said before, we've talked about how they might possibly be raising player health pools and have an item squish and talking about requiring smarter usage of spells. Davis, what are your thoughts on all this?
I think, like Jeff said, this is one of the building blocks that's going to build whatever PvP will be in Warlords of Draenor, and it's definitely good changes that people want to see. Having never played a healer in my life, because I just like killing people and don't like helping them. I don't know if people are super happy about all of this. All I know is that healers want to play the game at the moment, and they're too busy being CC'd to play the game, so it doesn't matter what spell they have. That's the understanding that I get from very angry healers. But yeah, this all looks really good, and I can't wait to see. Though I am kind of worried that it'll make the game, I don't know, could it cause the game to become really slow the way they're the pace of things? I mean,
my understanding of it is if you're fighting somebody without a healer present, like if you're doing all DPS, you're gonna live a little bit longer because health pools are going to be higher relative to player damage. But when you're looking at the whole picture with heals involved compared to today, people should probably be living roughly about the same amount of time, is my understanding. It's just that people will be living longer without heals, and when they get heals, those heals won't be as effective. So the healers are really going to have to focus on getting lots of throughput and being very efficient in order to keep their teammates up.
The way I imagine it going with the changes is that, right now it's kind of like, for the most part, pick a target and kill it. And that's how a lot of arena matches play out. But I think with a lot of the changes, it's going to be, swapping, getting people low, getting multiple targets low, and then when you can, land that CC chain, that's going to be much harder to get. Then that's when you go for a kill. So it's going to be a lot more coordination involved, I think. And overall, just better gameplay, I think, because nobody likes being CC'd forever and nobody likes dying in 2 seconds. So
yeah, and you brought up a good point there, Danny. We've been talking about this from the healing perspective, but it'll change things on the damage side as well, because you go from really having to focus on burning down one target in a burst while you're CCing the healer to having to worry about putting out the highest sustained DPS that you can on as like total sustained DPS, and cleave damage is going to be a lot more important. If you can put out maximum sustained DPS on multiple targets, you're really going to put a lot of pressure on that healer in an equivalent manner to how if you're really bursting somebody down today, that healer's getting pressure. But it's going from them having to make a quick reactive decision to heal that person as fast as possible to which person on my team am I going to heal? What spell am I going to use? Do I have the mana to afford this? Am I positioned in a place where I can get this cast off without being interrupted? There's a lot more that goes into it now. And I think the gameplay is going to change for everyone.
Yeah, this actually just popped into my mind just now, but one of the things that it kind of makes me think of is, and anybody that maybe want kind of an idea of how it might work, is back in BlizzCon 2010, when Complexity Red played against AAA, it was in Soda was the healer on Priest in the grand finals. In a lot of the matches, I mean, he was just completely tapped out on mana, just barely keeping his team, hovering above 0 for the whole time. And I'm kind of getting that picture of this is how this is going to turn out. And that's really exciting as both a spectator and somebody playing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be super interesting to see how these changes affect everyone's play style, I guess, for the most part. Moving on to the next topic, Aridin, very own Aridin, right on the podcast here, wrote an excellent post on PvP Live, the PvP revolution, basically. And it's kind of about how Blizzard is putting more focus on PvP than they ever have before, and they're kind of retuning the game for PvPers. Going to you, Aridin, since you wrote the article, starting with you, why don't you talk a little bit about what Blizzard has been doing to support PvP?
Well, thank you, Jason. It'll be my pleasure. So, it's not something that's really being said by Blizzard themselves. It's kind of something that when you take in all the information, you kind of start to get this idea that Blizzard has maybe realized that PvP is a very important aspect of this game and could hold the key to even more longevity, maybe another 10 years of game with good, balanced competition. So, a lot of things going into this is not only the changes that we were just talking about with healing and damage, but on the last post, they basically explicitly said this is for a better PvP experience. So now they're tuning the damage and healing that players can do to each other versus how much damage players can do to a boss, which is how it's been this whole time. So that's one of the big changes. The second one is they've announced this basically licensing for any community tournaments. If somebody wants to run a tournament, Blizzard's there to help. Get in contact with them. There's a whole blue post on it, and they're reaching out to the community and saying, we want to see more tournaments, and we're here to back you up on it. So that's another thing that's completely PvP related. And then also we have news about the tournament-style war games that come with complete set of gear and a spectator client. I mean, and spectator clients is one of the biggest tools to making something esports friendly that you can have in a game. So just all these things taken together, and all this information has been released at different times, but when you put it all together in one post like I tried to do, it really paints this picture that PvP is the future of World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing the changes they've made, or the more support that they've given to PvP. Davis, going down to you, what do you think about Blizzard putting more focus and retuning a lot of aspects of Warcraft to PvP?
I mean, I think all of it's just, I don't think there's anything to complain about, so to speak.
Right.
The general concept of it all is just getting us all where we want to be, if you know what I mean. And they're giving people the tools to, definitely see just how big World of Warcraft PvP can be as an esport. Whether it's just community driven or whether it does, actually get picked up by stuff and, people actually recognize World of Warcraft PvP will be, another thing. But I mean, it's all, just really exciting to be a part of it at the moment and see this kind of sudden change in the community. It's been like a really quick turn where just everything has been everything regarding PvP has been much more interactive, and it feels like everything just like gets done, just because of how easily we can get in contact with, Halinka and stuff like that. Like, we get changes, and now they're introducing stuff that really changes the game, if you know what I mean. So yeah.
Just like David said, Blizzard's finally starting to listen, especially Halinka, one of the senior designers for PvP, and we ask, and they've been responding very well, immediately almost. Eldakar, what do you think about all this?
I think what JD and Aridin said is absolutely true, and I think this is really going to end up being the golden age for WoW PvP. I mean, we all have nostalgia for the past, and everybody has things that they love about certain expansions or vanilla WoW, but I feel like the days that we're heading into are going to be the best for WoW PvP. And really, like Danny said in his article, we are seeing so much focus on making PvP really enjoyable, more so than I don't think I've ever seen even close to this level of commitment to PvP in the past. I mean, not even a fraction of it. It's always seemed, at least from my perspective, like PvP has been a side project for World of Warcraft. It's been something that maybe a few developers take some time out when they feel interested and work on for a bit and try to make it as fun as they can within limited time and resources. And obviously they do have to balance working on other projects, but it seems like there's so many. I don't know if there's more people committed at Blizzard, or if it's just Halinka and Lore coming on and really pushing this stuff hard, or what the deal is. It's hard to see behind the scenes at Blizzard, but I'm sure that Halinka and Lore have had a big impact, and whatever the reasoning is, I'm just grateful that it's happening.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see where it goes.
I actually, Resto Druid Big Moran, who's kind of been pretty active with us and giving us his feedback and stuff, he actually just messaged me here on Skype. You should have put it in chat, man. It would have been much better. But he brought up a good point to me just now, and he said that social media has forced WoW PvP to be responsive to the community, and I'm guessing he means like with the developer interaction. And there's actually a lot of truth to that, because back in 2004, when WoW was being developed, there wasn't Twitter, there wasn't these open means of communication between player and developer. So that's definitely something that's come around in the last few years that have totally reshaped the face of how this game is developed as far as feedback and things like that go. And also a couple things I didn't put into this article, but are still good points, is like, this kind of shift towards PvP focus, I guess you could say, was foreshadowed when they brought in Brian Halinka back at the beginning of Mists of Pandaria, because up until that point they never had a dedicated PvP developer. So obviously, with the way we know their development cycles work, where they're working like 2 expansions ahead, they knew that they wanted to put more focus into it to begin with. And also there was one more thing, but it slipped my mind. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, it's interesting that Aridin brought this up. Is since social media is out there now, it's so much easier to get responses from Halinka and Lore and other CMs, and they're doing an amazing job at it, especially in the past 6 months to a year. I mean, you tweet at Halinka with a reasonable request or question, and you're almost 100% going to get a response from them, which is amazing, and that's never happened before. So it's really nice to see that they're actually caring about the PvP scene now. So it's great news for everyone, really.
Yeah, and it's not just PvP. I think Danny was spot on, and you can't underestimate the impact that just Twitter alone has had on player-developer interaction, and Blizzard's ability to collect feedback from the player base and interact with us and distribute information. And going back to what I was saying before, I'm sure that there's a lot of really talented developers working really hard to make PvP great for Warlords of Draenor. But it's so nice having one focal point in Halinka to tweet about PvP issues and PvP questions, and I feel like we didn't have that before. And then we got Lore on top of it. It's like it's like it's double Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as long as they continue this trend, putting more focus on PvP, I think it's going to make many people in this community very happy. Moving on to the next topic, Holy Paladin Athlete suggested a very interesting idea on Twitter earlier this week. We have an article about it on PvP Live. I'm sure Jay can link it in chat for us. Athlete said, it'd be interesting if there was a guild activity tab that displayed character PvP victories and rating changes in arena and RBGs. So it basically would allow guild members to keep track of each other's progress if they're very competitive. Eldakar, going down to you, starting with you. What do you think about this? Is this something that you would like to see, PvP activity tabs?
I don't know about a PvP specific activity tab. What I'd really like to see is the existing activity tab be more customizable. So you could choose what metrics and what events you want to have displayed in the activity tab.
Like adding filters to it, kind of?
Yeah, exactly. So the GM of the guild could say, I'm really making a more PvP focused guild, or our guild is more PvP focused. So I'm going to select these specific things to display for PvP so everybody can see, Danny got rank 14. But at the same time, there's different sizes for guilds, and these things can get kind of spammy. So just having, a finer level control, I think would be great for every size guild. I mean, in smaller guilds, you could announce more things. In larger guilds, you could cut it down to, just the significant achievements to make it so people are actually looking at it. It's not just a spam log.
Right. Aridin, going to you, like you said, athletes tweet about, PvP activity tabs, having guild members be able to keep track of each other's progress. Is this something you'd be interested in?
This is actually kind of a tough topic for me because the following tweet that I don't think you read basically said, it's to give people more of a reason to be in a PvP guild, or to band together as a group of people. The reason why I'm not too sure about it is because a lot of people, myself included, now, granted, I don't really do too many random battlegrounds or too much world PvP, but my friends list and Skype for me is essentially my guild. That's how I do my communicating. That's how I find people to play with, and it's kind of like my own customized guild. So I don't know. It's a hard question for me to answer because I don't personally know what I would be looking for in a PvP guild.
Yeah, it's
just
hard because
my friends. That's it, really.
Because across realm now, kind of everything's changed. So it's almost everyone's not on the same server. Everyone's not in the same guild. It's definitely an interesting point, though. Davis, what are your thoughts? I mean, is this something that you would like to see? Is there any negatives to it?
I mean, there's no negatives to it apart from. It depends how hard something like that would be to implement for them, if you know what I mean, and how long it would take someone who could be doing something else to implement that. I think in general, guilds are either useless or they're great, if that makes sense. So people either really like their guild or really don't care about their guild that much, if you know what I mean. So if the guild tab in general was more interactive in some way, or just more detailed, if you could have, I don't know, even if you could just see a list of people's current ratings, or in the tab that shows when they've killed bosses for PvE or whatever, if you could maybe see if 3 people played arenas together, you could see, so and so completed 47 arenas this week in a guild group or something like that. Because I mean, there's definitely tracking for guild groups things available, if that makes sense. So,
that you actually brought up kind of a really cool point, and something I would actually really like to see is when you open up your guild tab and you see everybody that's logged on, to be able to mouse over them or something and see their current 2s, 3s, 5s rating, RBG rating. That would be awesome.
Just real quick.
Yeah.
It just pops right up.
Because I mean, when I'm looking for either 3s partners or to fill an RBG or something, obviously there's players that are below the skill level that I'm looking for, and having to go through and armory everybody to see if they're worth asking can get pretty tedious. But to have kind of that pop up there that shows where they're at is, I think, a great idea, and it also encourages those players to go out there and try to get their rating up as to not be so low in the guild or whatever. So it's kind of
friendly competition.
Yeah, a little competition. It encourages that kind of thing. But just thinking about it now with the way the game is and how it was before, previous to all this battle tag, real ID stuff, cross realm, everything, you wanted to go to the best server and get in the best guild and be with all the PvPers because that's where you could find teammates. You could see who was queuing, who you were queuing into. But now, with a lot of the stuff I mentioned, battle tag, cross realm, none of that stuff's really needed, honestly. I guess the biggest reason to be in a guild if you play arena would be to see who you might possibly be facing. Who else is in the same arena as you at the same time. So,
well, let me ask you guys this. I mean, do you think there'll ever be a point in time where we actually see cross-realm guilds?
I don't know about cross-realm guilds, but there is something in the new Diablo 3 patch. They introduced something called communities. Yeah. And they have clans as well, which are like guilds, but there's this new thing called communities that I've never really seen before, and it's something you can be in multiple communities, but only one clan.
Right.
So if they introduced something like communities where it's just a common place where anybody can join from any realm, and it's just a way that everybody can communicate with each other and organize, and you didn't have to leave your guild to be in it, and you could be in as many as you want. So like Danny could be in one with a bunch of people from PvP Live and people from his guild and people from other different groups, because not everybody is just with one group. A lot of people have lots of different groups of friends from lots of different places, and they want to play with all of them. So
true. Yeah, very true.
Providing new ways for people to organize and for people to get together, that can only benefit the game.
Davis, Aaron brought up a good point. Before we move on to the next topic, I mean, do you generally interact a lot with your guild, or are you more on Skype with, finding different arena partners?
For finding arena partners and stuff, it's kind of a mix of both, to be honest, for me. But I have a really close guild. Like, it's just a few friends, and we occasionally invite other people, and they come and go. But really, we've got a kind of core group of friends that are just kind of always in that guild. So really, my guild is more like me and a few friends guild bank that sometimes includes other friends, if that makes sense. So it's just kind of, but I actually really like having that rather than being in a big guild and not really knowing anyone, or being in some guild that's only filled with really high-rated PvPers or whatever.
Right.
Because I think you lose some of the, I don't know, like, how's a game? And I think games are meant to be played with friends, and I want to play with my friends. So yeah.
That's very sweet, Davis.
That's my logic.
He's a thoughtful guy.
I do really love the idea of having your guild list and mousing over to see different arena ratings. That would be an excellent idea. I don't know if that's something they're even thinking about, but Aridin, that could be a great blog post maybe.
Well, yeah, man, put me on the spot, huh? But no, I mean, I think that would be an awesome idea. Just because one of the things that bugs me the most about being in a guild is when you click on their name and they have no note, like no rating, no like anything like that, like, and then you have to go to the armory. It's just I think it would encourage more of grouping together and finding teams, because you might see somebody in your guild you don't know, and you're not going to ask them if they want to play because you have no background information on them,
Right.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really cool.
Well, it'd be a lot easier too, because you mentioned notes, but how often do those get updated as well?
Yeah, right. Nobody, especially in big guilds, nobody wants to sit through and set notes.
Right. Moving on to the next topic, there have been problems on the EU Arena and RBG ladders with players having super high ratings. Lead PvP developer Brian Holinka said on Twitter, "We have a process of reviewing the ladders and disqualifying people that continue to evolve and improve." This is something they're working on. They're aware of. Starting with Davis, you're on the EU. What have you seen? Have you seen a lot of problems with high ratings not being right?
Yes. On
Yes, that's
on
it. Moving on.
On the EU ladder, I don't know if it's specifically, but it feels like we have a real problem with people who don't like to play the game fairly and just tend to sit on the very top of the ladder as a kind of taunt to Blizzard for some reason. But so the issue is that either Russian players or players with Russian names win trade and they get ridiculously high, and it's either exploited or nobody's quite sure, I don't think. But at the end of the day, it's just really demotivating, I think, for the EU players, is when they go to their ladder and they're like, oh, I really want to see what rank I am, and then ranks 1 to 70 are, a name they can't even read because it's a Russian name, or and it's, it's people in green gear and stuff. Though the rank 1-5s team was a exploited Russian team with people just in green gear, but they've started to gear up now, so they've got some grievous gear, so clearly maybe they're just progressing and they're really, really good. Who knows?
That's one way to look at it.
They're just
But,
amazing. They're prodigies.
It's really interesting because this is a topic that we've talked about on very previous podcasts. I mean, probably like the podcast number 5 or something. Davis, why do you think it's so prevalent in Russia for some reason? I mean, do you have any idea?
I really don't. Like, I don't understand why they. I mean, I guess there are people who are doing it who aren't Russian.
Right.
If you know what I mean, it's just it's a lot easier to like look at a big group of names and be like, all those names are Russian,
right? And
most of them are probably win traded, rather than to look at a bunch of normal names and be like, oh, I think that guy's not legit, and so. But yeah, it's really strange. I mean, do you have this kind of problem in the US? Is there like a specific pocket of the community that is just like always ruining your ladders or anything like that?
Not too often. I mean, it pops up every once in a while, but never to the extent of like the EU sees it with Russia. There's a few here and there, but it's usually pretty quickly taken care of and not really a big problem.
Well, even if there were, oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to you. Go ahead.
Even if there were specific segments of the community that were more likely to exploit here in the United States, it would be harder to, tell them apart, or because everybody's in English. I mean, everybody speaks the same language, so it's not immediately obvious like, oh, those are Russian names. It's all English names. Mm-hmm. So something like that may very well be taking place or have taken place in the past, and we just can't see it as clearly. As for why Russia all the time, my guess, and this is completely a guess, I don't have anything to back this up, is that they may have a culture there, or at least, a subculture of trying to find ways to exploit the game. I've met people who work harder at trying to cheat the games they play than actually trying to play the games. Yeah. I mean, cheating the game is the game to them. So if they had a little subculture doing that there in Russia, and then, they tell their friends, and it spreads within the Russian language, or at least people that speak Russian, and that may be why you see it more over there. That's just a guess.
I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say your guess is too far off, because I've actually heard this myself, that it is the culture in Russia to it's a challenge for them to try to break the game. The challenge isn't in playing legitimately and getting the high rating. The challenge is how can they exploit. So yeah. And it's a cultural thing, I think, as far as what I've heard. So
yeah. And ladder exploitation in general is a problem because, like JD said, it is demoralizing to go to your ladder and see people that cheated their way to the top, holding, those top spots that are supposed to be the highest prestige.
Right.
But, as much as everybody'd like to see them ripped down quickly, and I would certainly love to see them ripped down quickly, there is a method to Blizzard's madness when they leave people up there for what seems like forever. because it takes them time to figure out what the exploits are, and they want to make sure they really understand the exploit and they can get everybody that's doing it in one wave. Because if they caught one person doing it and just banned them, they wouldn't have enough data to figure out how to fix the exploit, and it would just leave it out there. So it's unfortunate, and there's really no win-win situation for it other than preventing the exploits in the first place. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, you got to kind of look at it like if every time one of these players were to exploit their way up and Blizzard took them back down, somebody else is just going to come up, and it becomes this never-ending cycle of knocking people back down, banning, whatever they do. I like to think of it as, if anybody's ever watched like a cop movie, like a drug bust movie or something like that, they're not really after the petty dealers. They want to go for the kingpin. They want to get to the source and figure out where this exploitation is coming from. And a lot of times that's what I imagine they're doing.
Yeah, Blizzard's basically the FBI.
Right. Yeah.
They're getting one person to report the other one, and then it just keeps on going from there.
Yeah. They don't care about the guys in the streets. They care about the guys sitting behind the cash.
Right. Counting it up. Well, it's a good point. It's Eldakar, like Eldakar said. Blizzard's big on doing banning waves. They don't do it like individually for the most part. But they want to figure it out, catch them, and figure out how to fix it. So I mean that's kind of the bottom line. And like Holinka said, this is something they've been working on. They're well aware of what's going on. It's not something they're just dismissing. They're just trying to figure out how to fix it. So. And hopefully, next patch or Warlords of Draenor, maybe this will be easily fixed. Excuse me 1 second. My light actually just went out.
Yeah. We just had somebody, Kappa, in chat.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm in a I'm in a studio office right now, and it has automatic lights. I guess I didn't move around enough. Eldakar, what were you saying? I'm sorry.
Man. I was saying we've got somebody in chat, Kappa, who's asking why we were talking about win trading when carries are a much bigger issue. And I do agree carries are a huge issue, and they're arguably much more well spread. And I have never really liked the idea of carries. I've always thought that they're a bane to legitimate competition, but they're pretty deep rooted in the community and pretty widespread, and it's something that's very difficult to shut down because it's difficult to prove.
Right. Yeah. Not only is it difficult to prove, but I think a lot of things within game tend to lead people in that direction of wanting to get a carry, such as, I'll only play with somebody who's got a 2200 achievement. Well, somebody that doesn't have a 2200 achievement, it might be encouraged to go buy a carry or something so they have more people to play with. And it's kind of, I don't know, where do you really start with that? I don't really like to get into it. It's kind of one of those topics,
Taboo.
Yeah, it's pretty taboo.
Right. Well, actually, then let's move on to the next one. Let's get away from it. The last two topics of the night have to do with racials. After the official announcement of Warlords of Draenor, many people noticed that humans, every man for himself, is staying the same, but similar racials such as Will of Forsaken received a nerf. Aridin, I know you play a Warlock Undead. Why don't you talk a little bit about why didn't they nerf the human racial?
Well, we don't know that they're not going to nerf the human racial. What was said is, as they're still figuring out the itemization of trinkets and a lot of the gear and stuff that's going into Warlords, they're just not sure what they're doing with it yet. So it hasn't been confirmed that it's staying the same way it is. They're just not sure how they're going to change it, if at all. As far as the change to Will of the Forsaken, at face value, it's tough. It's a hard nerf. One extra minute on it. But with all the other changes that are going into it, maybe it is better for balance. I mean, it's like I said earlier in the show. Without actually getting hands on and being able to play, I can't really draw these conclusions.
Right.
But yeah, on paper it sounds. I don't like the way it sounds, but who knows?
Davis, going down to you. I mean, do you play a human? I don't even know. A human rogue?
No.
Undead
I don't
rogues.
play. At the moment, I play a night elf rogue, a human warrior, and a human monk.
Okay, well you have a couple human 90s, right?
I do.
That you play. I mean, what do you think about this?
I think I think it will depend on. So I'm under the impression that with Warlords of Draenor, there's going to be a lot of changes to the PvP trinkets as it is. So as far as I'm aware, like a PvP trinket would be better than every man for himself because the PvP trinket provides resistance to the same effect. Is that right? Like if you're in Solar Beam and you trinket it, then
I believe the same effect will apply to every man for himself as well, since it is essentially a free PvP trinket. So I don't think that there's going to be much of a difference there, really.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But regardless, if trinkets that are available in PvP become more useful, then it will only get better. But if trinkets become less meaningful, then of course this will all mean a lot less. So I don't really know which way it will go, to be honest. But to be honest, I would kind of like if it wasn't the human racial. I would just like it gone. Like kind of all abilities like that would just be gone. That and will, because I feel like at the moment it's gotten to the point where they've tried so hard to balance them that like Will of the Forsaken just seems a lot worse compared to Every Man for Himself. It just seems like a worse version of Every Man for Himself, if that makes sense. So it's gotten to the point where it almost feels like there's no point in having them. They don't feel like core parts of being an undead anymore, or core parts of being a human. It's just, oh, I've got another damage trinket. Woo.
You know, I think on that same note, though, you can almost say that being required to equip a PvP trinket for every race except for one shouldn't be required either. You know, I think Eldacar brought it up in the past that every man for himself should be baseline for all races. I actually really like that idea. You know, and obviously given something in return in place, that way they can, you know, come out with more PvP trinkets with maybe different itemization, different effects that you can kind of pick and choose to gear your character out how you want instead of how you need to.
Before we go to Eldacar, Davis, why don't you stand up and show everyone what you're wearing there, bud?
Yeah, so my lovely friends at PvP Live decided to send me a PvP Live shirt. So I think I'm one of the first, if not the first EU person to have a PvP Live shirt. Is that right?
I think that's pretty accurate.
Can I hold that title?
Yeah, you
I mean,
have that.
unless anyone was at BlizzCon from the EU that we gave a PvP Live shirt to, I think you might be the first.
You're it.
That's possible, though. We gave out a lot of shirts at BlizzCon.
We did.
Wow.
Eldacar, getting back on topic, Eldacar, I just want to point that out real quick. Eldacar, you know, we've talked about this before, but, you know, what do you think about Every Man for Himself? And like Airden brought up as well, this might not be the final change. You know, they're still working on this. They're still developing it, tuning it. But what do you think how it is right now? Do you think it should stay the same?
I think if they're going to leave it how it is, I don't think it needs a nerf to its cooldown or anything like that. I think, like was brought up, it's different than Will of the Forsaken because it replaces the PvP trinket. It doesn't stack with the PvP trinket. You can't use them both. So it's just fundamentally different. But like I said last week, I would really like to see it just made baseline for all classes. I don't like the idea of a racial that's so heavily tied strength-wise to current itemization that's going to fluctuate wildly based on the trinket design of the day. And I don't like the idea of them having to be careful about their trinket design because they're worried about the effect it's going to have on every man for himself. And I don't like the idea of PvP trinkets in general. I mean, I like the concept of the ability, but just having every man for himself baseline across everybody and putting in more interesting trinkets so we don't have one trinket slot that's just mandatory and boring all the time. I mean, it's the same thing I said last week, but that continues to be my thoughts on the matter.
Right.
Well, that's actually something I never thought of what you just mentioned is that, you know, when we haven't really seen it much this expansion, but in past, for example, Cataclysm, everybody wanted to play human because Dragon Soul trinkets were so incredibly strong. You know, Vial of Shadows, Cunning of the Cruel, and it was only really strong for humans because they can equip those 2 trinket slots. So yeah, you have one race in the game that really benefits from the current gear, and if they were to remove that from just humans, then they can design OP trinkets for everybody.
Right. Keeping on the topic of racials, moving on to the last topic, basically, something a lot of players have been noticing lately is that Worgen rogues, in particular, have an advantage in battleground maps such as AB, due to Worgen's racial dark flight, which buffs or with buffs like burst of speed and sprint, allowing the rogue to reach over 100% speed increase, making them faster, basically, than a mount in battlegrounds. It's really interesting because how can basically a racial make you faster than a mount? You don't have to mount up. So Eldacar, going down to you first. What are your thoughts on this? Should this be something everyone's concerned about? Should this be nerfed?
I think it should definitely be nerfed. I mean, the issue is really people being able to get the flags in battlegrounds faster than everybody else, and I mean it's kind of been an issue with Crusader War in the past, but really everybody should have an equal chance, regardless of your class or race, to get to those flags in the same amount of time. Everybody needs to be equal in that regard. And whether or not it should be nerfed across the entire game or just in battlegrounds, I don't know. I mean, it is kind of cool and fun taken on its own, but I think balance has to come first.
Yeah. Danny, going up to you, Airden, Worgen rogues with the Dark Flight racial.
Well, they already said that there's a hot fix that's being tested right now with that. Yeah, it's just an unfair advantage, and normally these type of effects don't stack. Any kind of speed increase effects typically don't stack with each other. It's something they're looking into, something they're fixing. I really don't think it's going to be a huge deal. Maybe some RBG groups gained, a few hundred rating from it or whatever. I really don't know. As long as it gets fixed, Yeah,
I guess I guess you have to know too. What's the ratio of how many people play Worgen rogues, right? I'm guessing it's not that high for the most part. Davis, going down to you as an avid roguer. What are your thoughts on this? You don't play a Worgen, obviously.
I don't play a Worgen. I mean, my only concern is that in fixing this, they somehow break Burst of Speed, but at the same time, Burst of Speed could probably use some nerfing. So yeah, it's obviously unfair that these Worgens are running so fast. Nobody can keep up with them. And they're invisible too, so it's even worse. You can also stack rocket boots and burst of speed, so you can go at I don't know, I think it's 400 and something % movement speed. But but yeah, so burst of speed allows for some interesting NASCAR-like gameplay.
NASCAR, wow, trademark that.
They keep turning left.
You want to play a racing game but also play WoW? Just make a Worgen
all
rogue.
into one.
When I've got Burst of Speed on, I just run around and pretend I'm surfing. Did any of you play Counter-Strike where you could surf on Counter-Strike? No?
I did not know.
Well, that's what I do on my rogue. But yeah.
It sounds like I'm guessing a lot of people probably want to team up with you if that's all you're doing, huh, bud?
Yeah, I know. I just have invites and invites to groups upon groups.
That pretty much covers all the topics for the PvP Live podcast. 20 episodes, too, by the way. Can we talk about that real quick? 20 episodes? Man, we've been doing this for a long time now. I mean, back since September. I mean, obviously, there's been many other podcasts with much longer history, but it feels like it's been a super long time so far.
Yeah, it's been fun, though. I enjoy every second of it. It's my highlight of the week.
Yeah. Just in closing, too, I want to remind everyone, Armageddon, PvP Live's 3v3 Arena Invitational Online Tournament is happening this weekend, March 15th, 16th, and of course, we'll be having a 14 playoff on Friday, March 14th for that final 8th seed. We're going to be having interviews, players are going to be coming on set with us, and of course, Azael and Vihel will be commentating. I'll be hosting, and this is all for a $10,000 prize pool. Any last comments, shout-outs? Airden, going to you first. Aaron, you're
Mike was muted.
There
Mike
you
was
go.
muted. Shout out to the chat. Thanks for coming and hanging out, guys. Also to, I didn't get to meet her. I'm a little jealous, but Kim Fan for stopping by you guys at the studio. That's pretty awesome. Thanks to Blizzard for all the support with this tournament and all the Twitters interact. And thanks to you guys.
Yes. Thank you, Aaron. Eldakar, going down to you. Any last minute shout outs before we wrap it up?
Well, like Danny said, a shout out to the chat as always. Thank you guys for being here and interacting with us and giving us your questions. Thank you to Blizzard for the amazing continued support of PvP and Armageddon. And thank you to everybody that's working on Armageddon and everybody that plans to tune in. I hope you guys really, really enjoy it. And lastly, a shout out to my friend Peon.
Boom. Davis, going to you. Anything last before we sign off for the evening?
Yeah, shout out to everyone that's been there from the start and everyone that's joined us along the way. And shout out to Nico.
Oh, of course,
for
Nico.
For being Nico. He wants a shout out, so he can have a shout out. He tried to play Rogue, actually. He's not done too well on it, but eventually he'll get the hang of it. I'll make him a good Rogue one day.
I just want to give a shout out to, first and foremost, the PvP Live staff. And I don't even want to begin to name names, but I mean, everyone here at the offices, everyone working from across the world, basically in the UK and in the US. Thank you guys so much for all your support. And obviously, thank you, Blizzard. Oh my gosh. Thanks for everything you guys have been doing for PvP and for live entertainment in general. You guys are amazing. Again, once more, next weekend, Armageddon. It's no joke, guys. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a serious broadcast. Before we sign off, remember, go to pvp-live.com, bookmark that website, follow us all right down here on Twitter, and hit that follow button right down below on Twitch. Real quick, I'm sorry, we're not going to have a podcast next weekend because we're going to be doing the tournament. So until the following week, I'll see you then. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.